Not on. Hello up there. They're up there playing. Thank you. So let's sit quiet for a couple moments. And it's quite helpful, I find anyway, so I'll suggest it to you, to always carry a new question or a very old question about your practice. Because if you have no questions, it might be a little stale. So let's sit quiet and consider, what is your own personal question about your practice? You may never ask this question out loud, which is fine. But this next time is Q&A, discussion. So what is your question about your practice? Or about the Dharma, which is your practice? And when someone is ready to raise their hand and receive the microphone, then please do so. All questions and comments are welcome, and they usually benefit someone else. Okay, we have to talk into the microphone to take care of those who are home streaming.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm new to this practice,
Okay.
and he had mentioned this morning when describing taking breaks, a 30-second practice was more successful than a longer sit, and I'm wondering what successful means.
Oh, you are good. Thank you for that question. We all wonder that all the time. What's successful? I don't know how to answer because I don't know when mine are or aren't. What would it mean for you? Do you have just a thought? And speak into the microphone again, please. Yeah.
I guess stillness.
Stillness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. You know, why it's so hard to answer that question is the instructions are also like have no hope and no fear. don't meditate. Don't do anything. Don't stop thoughts. These are the ancient instructions. So then if thoughts just stopped from me being still, would that be success? Maybe. It could be success. It could also mean I'm being too tight, like I'm suppressing thoughts. So it's definitely a moving target. And the best instruction I have ever gotten, and then I want to open it up because there's a lot of people here who've sat a lot, is just keep doing the practice. Just sit. Try to do it every day. Just get an anchor, a focus. Usually it's the breath going in and out right here. Very subtle. You can feel it somewhere around your nostrils or upper lip. Just focus really precisely and gently. And then you'll be off the focus. And then bring it back. In the moment of bringing it back, that's the moment of awakening. The awakening is, I'm lost, I'm off, come back. And we do that thousands and thousands of times. And it does, like anything else, get somewhat easier. But maybe not. Maybe the very next time you sit down, it's like, oh my God, what happened? I've gone nuts. And then you just go, oh, I'm having a thought that I've gone nuts. Oh, that's gone. Back to the breath. No matter what comes. My knee is hurting so bad I'll never walk again. Okay. That's a thought. And then you can go put the attention into the body. Check out that sensation. Maybe relabel it from pain to sensation. Then check if you can walk the next time when you get up. And then you learn something. Oh, my knee. The first years I sat, I always thought my leg was going to be totally crippled when I got up for I don't know how many years. It never was, but it took me a long time to go, you know what, Zopa, that's a story. Now my leg feels very stiff because I'm 71, but I almost never think I'm going to be crippled when I wake up, when I stand up. So, does that help? It's just practice. And literally they say in the teachings, only check in about every 6 months. So you've practiced every day as much as you can for 6 months. Then do a little report card. And that report card should have a couple things on it. The Dalai Lama says, the first one is, am I kinder to the people around me? That might surprise us, going, well, but I'm just supposed to do calm abiding. But hopefully, if we get calm, there's a fruit. So am I kinder to my own mind, to my own self, to those around me? And what's the second measure? I said there were 2, didn't I? I don't know. I've lost it. It'll come. But am I kinder to those around me? And out of that, you start seeing my mind is improving. The basic nature of our mind's never going to improve or deteriorate because it's Buddha nature. Totally awake, completely aware, luminous, vast, unobstructed, open, compassion, wisdom. That's not going to change. But what we're talking about is all those layers of our mind. that are irritated, confused, blissful, joyful, zoned out, all of that. That can change. But don't try too much. And the one other thing I did want to say, when Lama Michael was talking about these like 30-second, it's just a relaxed but intent focus wherever your focus is. Really waked up. And then you can kind of relax a little more. Then intention again, relax a little more. So eventually we want to get to some, eventually we will be where that brighter awareness is accessible easily. Even when we're driving a car or talking to a stranger or sitting. So I'd like to hear from others about this, like success at your shamatha. Matthew, thank you for that question. It's good.
This actually reminds me of the question that kind of arose when you asked us to kind of come up with some kind of question to sit with. Mm-hmm. And I think what came up was how much of my practice is practice.
Oh.
And that kind of that reminds me it's not the same, but similar to what she was asking, which is, how can I tell if it's working? In terms of
yeah.
Well, not necessarily how can I tell if it's working. How do I know that I'm genuinely engaging in the practice, or if I just think I am?
So, when did you take refuge, Matthew?
I believe it was the winter of 2016, 2017.
Okay. Has your mind changed since then?
Well, yeah, it's
Mm-hmm. But I mean, do you see progress in being kinder to yourself?
Definitely.
Okay.
I guess I was thinking more like, moment to moment, because for my first year, I really wouldn't have been able to tell you. I mean, my first year of practice, looking, reviewing it now, I really couldn't. I'm really not sure how much of that was practice. I'm not really quite sure how many of my shamatha sessions here at KCC were shamatha, or I just mistakenly believed that I was practicing shamatha in those sessions.
We can't know that way.
Mm-hmm.
This morning, I can look back at my sessions. I can't even remember them because 10,000 thoughts go through in a session. If I say, now, was that shamatha Zopa or not, I would go. I sat. I often go back to what Lama Tara told us in our one-year retreat. When we would ask those kind of measuring questions, she'd say, well, did you sit down? Yes. Did you stay as still as you could? Yes. Did you still your speech? You weren't talking while you sat there? Yes. And then you did your best with your mind. Then you practiced. That was success. I think success is just doing it.
Okay.
Did I do it? And what's the it? I think the questions are somewhat getting at what's the it. We don't know. Just sit and do it. And then that becomes clear, maybe only in hindsight. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking aloud here. Maybe it only gets clear in hindsight. All those hours had some effect. While I was doing them, often I'm self-critical. Oh my God, it's one of my worst ones. Measuring, no, your breath, you were off your breath. You took a long breath. And it's just Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. I often say this because it's a saying that I used this morning in shamatha, and it really helped me. It comes from Wangchuk Dorje, one of the Kagyu masters, and he said, you're doing shamatha, your mind just fills up with thoughts, right? I mean, it feels really big. Mm-hmm. It's like a big brain full of thoughts. And he would just say, wherever your thoughts are going, go there now. And it's like clearing off a table. And for me, it works quite well. It's just like if someone came up and swept all this off, and then I'm starting fresh. Because they're crowding in from habit. Mm-hmm. But even that's as soon as you see it, maybe that's the success. I saw that for 30 minutes I was crazy. I was in samsara. What did Lama Eric say? Mind turned outward. Nirvana, mind turned inward to its own nature. So we take steps toward that inward by just stopping, looking around, talking. Okay? Yeah.
Thank you.
There I am. Okay. I have a question. I have a comment for one thing that Sally, I really appreciated the sound shamatha because it had me. This is sort of a success sense or response a bit because it had me pay more attention because I knew there'd be another sound somewhere, and meanwhile my thoughts didn't do as crazy chatter. So thank you for that. And then the other question that I want to throw out is the continuing one for me, and I think for many of us. I was at my book group last night, and I was talking about coming to this, doing this 2-day meditation New Year's retreat because I wanted to get more settled or more equanimity, reduce my agitation because of the times that we are in right now, the state of the world, the state of our president, now the barrage of who's going to be, it's never ending. Mm-hmm. And so, and two things I noticed that were just that how hard that continues to be for me to not get hooked. Mm-hmm. And by whether it's a news thing or even with this aware, really bright women's group that I'm in with this book group, people, we jump at that. They go, oh yeah, isn't it bad? Oh my gosh, and look what he did recently. Yeah, and do you believe the border? And yeah, and those 2 kids. So we kind of go off, and then I'm off. And I probably do the same thing in reverse. If somebody brings it up in a different setting, I'll go, oh my gosh, yeah, and did you read this? So any help or continuing suggestions on how to tap that down? Or and yet still be aware. I think we need to be conscious. Mm-hmm. We can't be in denial about what's going on, but how to have some kind of balance and tap it down so it doesn't affect me as much.
I know you've been working on this for a while. What do you do already that does help?
Well, I'm reducing my news intake and not always tuning into NPR or the satellite channels when I'm in the car, trying to listen instead to a chanting CD or things like that. And that helps.
Good.
I do try to stay more daily in my daily meditation, kind of doing something that's, and also trying to do, okay, so the other thing is when I notice it, I'm trying to notice it, and then even then take time to notice my shoulders coming up or my heart rate going up.
Yeah, good.
Okay, and taking
Good.
a breath and slowing it down and kind of making a shift at that time when I'm attending or being aware. And choosing my reading materials wisely, I guess.
Those are all great. Yeah, good. You know, I think the thing I've been working with myself in a bit of this is I don't yet understand the first noble truth that the Buddha taught, which is suffering. If I really understand suffering, I stop engaging in it. And to the degree I'm still engaging in it, I'm not understanding it. So what I'm pointing at is it might be helpful, and I think you're working on this, I can tell by the question, to see that spin is suffering. And you're suffering off of it. And then when you engage spinning, everybody gets their plates spinning on their sticks, then you're all suffering. So we need to get clearer and clearer that is suffering. What would be not suffering? And when I am able to bring any amount of calm to those situations, which is difficult, then I can see that calm helps the suffering. So my teacher has always said, my teacher, Tupten Chudrin, if you cannot, and Lama Michael says this too with different words, if you cannot bring more calm back out, because you will only add to the confusion, and the confusion is the suffering. So one thing we could all practice, if whoever is caught in this, and I'm with you, I get caught, is refrain. So everybody starts spinning on it, and he did this, and it's because we care. Our hearts are hurting. But go there, and just be quiet, and go there. And being quiet and just shining to the others relief from suffering. Remember, he's a suffering being. Anyone who harms anyone is doing it due to ignorance, attraction, and aversion. Do I have ignorance, attachment, and aversion? Yes. They're just like me. It's blown bigger because, I'm not the president. But on a very human level, it's the same thing. So if I put out into the world more criticism, more anger, more frustration, more fear, it's very fear-based. And people like that are already fear-based. So now I've joined their team. We're both putting fear in the world. We're both putting anger out. That's completely different from paying attention and doing effective things. It's completely different. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So when you say so I'm hearing two things. And one is very helpful right away is to not engage when I want to say, oh yeah, he did this too. And instead, but do it in a way where I don't feel like people feel like I'm cutting them off or shutting them up.
Yeah,
but
you
sort
don't
of
have to do
you don't have
that.
to
You
do
just
that.
be quiet. You
Be
just go
quiet.
peaceful. You
Peaceful.
can have a nice face toward them
Okay,
anyway.
right.
Send some love toward them
Okay.
while
okay.
It's
Okay.
great practice.
Yeah, good point.
really
good point.
hard
That'll be good.
practice.
That'll be interesting to try.
Yeah,
So thank
in
you.
that moment.
And then the being that it doesn't mean that I disengage from everything, but we can be active in ways that are helpful.
Yeah, it's effective in engagement
Okay.
versus
Okay.
just engaging. We think doing this rah, 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 with our friends is
Yeah.
what? What do we think? Do we think we're changing the world? We're kind of just on the same hamster wheel, you know. When we stop that, we can think about, well, number one, what I've noticed, I have more energy when I stop that. That spends a lot of energy. I can sit and think, well, what would I like to do with my saved up energy? And it can be anything. It can be, I'd like to sit today and pray for 30 minutes with Chenrezig toward all the leaders of the world. Or I'd like to talk with that friend about, I don't really want to do this because it's really disturbing to me. So if you own it, and don't say you're disturbing me, but us doing this is disturbing to me. And I wonder if we could kind of think about it and talk about it. And I've got one friend I've been doing that with, and we just catch each other because it's an old habit. So we can be very effective. Doesn't mean it. Remember all three actions: body, speech, and mind. We need to be effective in mind first. So if we're doing our bodhisattva vow, people who appear as our enemies, as soon as they're left out, we have violated our bodhisattva vow. The saying is, as soon as there's self and other, it's a violation of the bodhisattva vow. There's no self or other. At the highest level, bodhisattvas know that. I don't know that. I'm just mucking around, but but hopefully in a good direction, following my teachers. They don't have self and others. The Dalai Lama doesn't have self and others. He doesn't run around trashing the Chinese out. He even one time, there was talk of boycotting Chinese goods, and he said, don't do that. It might harm the Chinese people. I do not want to harm the Chinese people. And this is, I mean, the Chinese are imprisoning his people, torturing them, killing them, have taken over all of Lhasa and Tibet. And he says, in response, I don't want to harm them. But he doesn't lay down like a rug and do anything. I mean, he's out and around speaking the truth. So there's our model. I hope that's helpful. And then, you know, in this tradition, you always bow to those enemies and thank them because they show us where we're stuck. Yeah. Well, you don't have to do it right in front of them. And you don't have to vote for them unless you want to. But you know what I mean, in the mind. You know, saying just not thank you for your bad acts. What we want is they'd be free from that. But we want to thank the conditions that rise, that show us, oh man, I'm still so mucked up in this. Someone just says a word and I can go, So that's good. Sit down and go, how does a word? It's just sound waves. It's just sound waves, and now they're gone. And I went crazy. Wow, that's interesting. And always laugh with yourself and be compassionate. Because if we get hard on ourselves, it doesn't work.
Yeah, when I do the same thing on the phone, and I just think the more I pay attention, the more I'm doing exactly what that person wants me to do. So I got to stop it. You're just getting caught into it.
Can you say more about that?
Well, I think that person that we're talking about, that particular president, thrives on the attention and thrives at being the topic of discussion. And it's very much, from the TV shows he was in and all that. So my own opinion is a lot of it is just to ensure he's the one that people are talking about.
Yeah.
And so when you go there, it's kind of like you're letting him win a little bit. That's how I think about it. But
yeah, you could think you're letting the person win, but really the klesha is winning.
Right.
Because the klesha has a hold of the person. Shantideva, in The Way of the Bodhisattva, says it like this. When someone's hitting you with a stick, you don't get mad at the stick, right? You get mad at the person. So this is a little hard to unpack here, but the person doing the thing harmful to you is the stick. The klesha is wielding that person.
Right.
So the person's ignorance, attachment, aversion is running them. And then they do harm. So why don't we get angry at the klesha and wish them free of it? Because they're just lost in a sea of pain. And if we take the Buddhist Mahayana view and we say, that person's been my dear little brother. That's what I use for certain male politicians, because I can't use the mother thing. It's too far. Like that person was my mother in a past life. That's a good thing. But I often say, that was my dear little brother. And what would I wish for my dear little brother? I would wish freedom. I would wish that he was free of all that suffering. And think of the karma being piled up. Oh my gosh, that's just painful.
Yeah, that's...
So our job is to stick with our bodhisattva motivation, and then to really find that heart. And I don't find it every day, but I work at it, And just like you say, I don't want to end up as scared as that in my next life, trying to control everybody and, gather things around me, and so fearful. I don't want anybody to end up that way.
Yeah.
So we really have to go back and review. What's my practice here? Am I doing it?
So my question was going to be, I'm doing the refuge tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what that means, actually. I did the readings, but I'm just wondering if you have any advice as I go through the rest of today and tomorrow to be a lens to look at things through that might be helpful.
Yeah, be happy. That's my best advice. Be happy. It's the images are things like we're in a huge ocean with these waves crashing around, and we're just tossed and thrown, and sharks are lurking, and here comes the Buddha, your teacher, with a raft. And you're about to climb on. So
that sounds really good.
Yeah, and then the raft gets tossed around. It doesn't turn all sunny and smooth, but you have a raft, and there are others on there with you. And we're lucky there's teachers paddling in the right direction. So I say, relax, be happy, don't worry about it. Lama Michael will lead everyone through it. There's 6 of you. We'll lead everyone through step by step, and we'll throw flower petals all over you. And yeah.
That'll be my daughter's favorite part. She's going to come watch.
Good, she's coming. Yeah. Families really enjoy it, even when they're not Buddhists. Yeah, don't worry about it. And then the meaning, you said you did read the things online, good. Then the meaning will keep happening. You know, I took refuge what year is it now? 20 years ago, I think, from Lama Michael, and then Venerable Chitrin and Geshe Kelsang Damdul. And each time, something deeper or different happened. And I still don't know what it means. It's not something we pin down. It means this. Because in the middle of the night, when I wake up from a scary dream, it means one thing. I can pull up the Buddha immediately, or for me, Green Tara, and just fill the room with green light, just in my imagination. That's one kind of refuge. When my son doesn't want to talk to me, then that's a different refuge. When, my brother gets sick and is dying. So it just keeps unfolding. Or even times where you're really blissful and then it crashes. It just keeps opening. I think lifetime after lifetime till we hit the 10th bhumi and then straight into Buddhahood. Then we become refuge. But I think along the way we kind of become refuge for others, in moments, right? You help a friend, or, someone comes to you because you're good-hearted and they know they can talk to you. Then we're giving refuge. But it's all because we already have Buddha nature. We've already got it. So these kind of ceremonies kind of show it to us. It's like, I've got this, and now I'm saying I've got it. Yeah. Does that help? Yeah. It's inexplicable. There's that joke about everything that's inexplicable in Buddhism. There's shelves full of books everywhere explaining it. And then, at some point they tell you all these words won't get you there. But they are like a finger pointing toward the moon. Finger's not the moon, but it points. Your experience of the moon is your experience. But it helps teachers and books and everything can point. Because in Buddhism, we need to hear the Dharma, and that includes books and talking, etc. We need to contemplate it, like we did this morning, the contemplation of the forethought, and then we meditate, which is just rest in the natural state. How many people are here of the ones who are going to take refuge? Just put your hand up if you don't mind. 3, 4, 5, 6, you're all here. Yay! How wonderful. And for those who already have refuge, you can come, and by just witnessing the ceremony, you're renewing your refuge vow yourself. Just listen to the words, and in your heart, just renew it. Lama Michael and I were talking yesterday, and he said, you know, it's really interesting. I don't think you can break your refuge vow. And we were sitting there thinking, yeah, like, why do they call it a vow then? You know, you can break other kind of vows, like if later you take some of the 5 precepts or something, not to steal, don't lie, don't use intoxicants to the point of being intoxicated, no unwise sexual behavior, no bodily harm to others. You can break those, but you can't break your refuge vow because the Buddha, because you've got Buddha nature, and on one level, that's what you're taking refuge in. On another level, you're taking refuge in the ineffable Dharmakaya, that which permeates everything, the emptiness which permeates everything. And and in the middle, you're kind of taking refuge in, not kind of, but in all the practices, right? So how could you break it? You will sometimes move away from your practice, towards your practice, be really engaged, then, you know, maybe not do things for a while, but the Buddha's not going to go anywhere. Your Buddha nature isn't going anywhere. My one teacher used to laugh and tell us, there's only one way you can fail in your Buddhist practice, and that is if you try to get rid of your Buddha nature. You will fail at that. She said there's no other failure possible. So maybe we're back to the success question right there. Probably last question, and then we'll take a break.
Clarification question then. Did you say earlier that you sort of can break the bodhisattva vow when you start thinking self and other?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what do you, can you get back on track?
Any of these vows, you can just put your Buddha statue up there and sit down and say, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Seriously, you can. In some lineages, there's more, you know, there are some nice rituals. You could go talk to your bodhisattva refuge master and say, you know, this is what I did. But this is the beauty of it. It's all in your mind. There's nobody else there, even your view of your teacher. So the minute you see it, I don't like this word. I won't say confess because I was Catholic and that's too loaded. You lay it bare. One of my teachers translates it that way. I lay this bare before you. B-A-R-E. Not a bear. Sorry, I'm being so silly. I must be getting tired. I lay this bare before you. But I like that phrase. I lay this transgression. I lay it bare before you. I say, I did that. That's all. You don't go into guilt. Don't go into spinning regret. Just say, I did that. So it's like a grown-up kind of confessing where you just say, I own up to it. And then you reset your vow, you know, by just meditating again. You can read the Bodhisattva vow. There's all kinds of versions of it. Or you can just contemplate again All beings have been my mother, my little brother, my dear friend, and I vow not to leave them behind. I vow to do my practice so that they can be free, whatever the words are for you. Yeah. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. I love that wording because it's so crazy. Kleshas are endless. I vow to end them all. That's the big heart, you know. Maybe it's so important because we kind of feel we can't do it. But Buddha nature can do that. Yeah, why not? Okay, I don't know if we really need a break so soon, do we? Should we go another 10 minutes? Let's just go for 10 minutes. Yeah. And then we'll take a very short, quick, just go to the bathroom break, and then Jeff will help us with the next calm abiding. Has to light up green.
I just wanted to add something that is true for me when I run into that breaking away from the Bodhisattva vow, is bringing myself tenderness and compassion and just surrendering to my own humanity as a part of this is just what's here. And it's taken me such a long time to meet that with that tenderness. And for me, that's where the freedom shows up, is when I can offer myself that measure of deep embodied tenderness and caring and comfort.
Thank you. And that brings us right back to the fact that when we move out of our bodhisattva vow, we're just suffering. Why would we beat ourselves up for suffering? We do it though, don't we? I had this insight once. I was so angry at someone, and I was just fuming around. And then I saw, oh my God, Zopa, you are angry at her for the way she suffers. You don't like the way she suffers. You want her to suffer some other way. But I started seeing, isn't that true? When we're angry at someone, it's because they've done something we don't like, which is our suffering. And then they did that usually out of their ignorance. So I'm just angry at them for their suffering. Like, stop suffering right now. I don't know. It's still a little wacky up there. Take refuge. Take refuge. Okay, let's take a little quick stretch and bathroom break, just short. Maybe 7 minutes.